Hey guys, how's it going? Back again. I'm going to do episode 84 Pixel Talk today. Figured this time I'll try to do it a little bit more structured and hopefully a little bit shorter. So today we'll be talking about a few different topics, but I'm going to start with some updates from the site. And I'll talk a little bit through what I've been playing, what I'm going to be playing next. And then I also have like a topic for today for like main discussion, which I guess is just with myself. But if you've been following the site, maybe you've noticed some of the changes that have been going on. Nothing major, just been mostly fixing bugs. Joaquim had alerted me to an issue with the collections where it wasn't saving whether you completed a game or not. So I made an update that should be out there and fixed now. And then there's been a few other things. I think probably the biggest one is on your profile dashboard. Sorry, not your profile, but your dashboard, where you'd find your blog drafts and stuff. I added a paginator there. As I had it built, it was only pulling like the first, I think, 10 records, so 10 articles. So if you had a bunch of drafts there and you created a new one, it would have showed up at the end of that list, which would have been off screen. You couldn't see it. There'd be no way to get to it. So I added a paginator so that you can reach that and you could see your latest drafts. I probably will make more updates to do like a reverse chronological order. That way your most recent ones show up at the top. And I think that's like the biggest bug fix. And then I've been working on a couple big features, well, moderately big features on the side. So I've been building out a new RSS feed. This will come out on that RSS feed. Episode 83 I've put into like audio format. I've updated the site. I have the RSS generator, putting that together. I've just got to put together like a logo so I can upload them to like upload the new feed to Spotify and Apple Music and all that stuff. So look for the new listing, and I'll put it all in the show notes in the article. But look for the new listing on Spotify and Apple Music under Pixelcasts. So this feed has kind of all of the PixelBit podcasts for all time. So if you were a Nerds Without Pants listener, all that'll be on there. The old Pixel Talks, Push Start to Continue, PB and Jason, Digital Mystery Tour, Backloggers Anonymous. We've had a bunch of podcasts over time. So they're kind of all on there. With the thought being that I'm kind of working on the Pixel Talk stuff, but I thought it would be better to just have all of the podcasts kind of all in one feed since we don't have a huge staff, and NWP was kind of like the biggest podcast that PixelBit's had. And obviously Julian and Justin are doing the stage select. So Nerds Without Pants has ceased and probably will not come back. But historically, everything will be on that feed. That way you guys can re-listen if you want and go back in time, and it just makes it a little bit more accessible. So keep an eye on that. The RSS feed I'll have posted alongside the audio snippet on the article. You'll start seeing it on every article, and some instructions like when I get links to where the podcasts live on Spotify and stuff. I will put links in the show notes to access that. So keep an eye out for that. And then last time I had talked a little bit about the like the short form post. So I'm still working on that in the background. There's just a little bit more work to be done with it. I'm hoping that maybe in the next week or two that'll be something that comes out. I'll admit I'm not spending every night doing PixelBit coding like I was before. Trying to do some other stuff like play some games and relax. So for right now, that is probably it as far as site updates go. If you run into any problems, again, please hit up the Discord and send me a message. Drop a message in the forums, drop a message on an article, send me a private message. There's 100 ways to do it. But if you're experiencing an issue, I will be happy to fix that up. And hopefully now with this latest update with the paginator there and the autosave and all that stuff, any issues people are having with like losing blogs, or like losing track of blogs, hopefully that's ceased. I'm also going to be doing, so this is a separate thing, but kind of related, is I'm going to do a tutorial series on kind of going through the site and using different things. I just wanted to finish up this podcast feed stuff first before I get into that. So keep an eye out for that. All of those videos will hit the same channel. They'll all be on the PixlB.it channel. So subscribe and I guess like and whatever, so that you get updates when stuff comes across. But let's talk a little bit about some games now, because that's way more interesting, I think. So if you've been looking at the site, you might have seen I post a review for Pseudoregalia, which you'll see here now. So this game I thought was super fun. I gave it 4.5 stars. And I think what's great about this little clip here in the background is you get a feel for kind of how the game looks and how it looks in motion, how it plays. So I think that the real strong part of this game was really the movement mechanics. So this player, you're seeing them do a few different moves here, like the long jump, which is super helpful, the slide, and then long jump, and then that they just did the high jump there. And you can kind of see these little bubbles are a way to go forward real fast. And actually this section that he's on right now requires the wall run, which I don't think he has yet. So he's not going to be able to get through this. And that is another one of the kind of important movement mechanics in this game, is the wall run and wall grab. But you kind of see where, oh, look, he managed to get over to the other bubble. We'll see if he can make it across. Oh, he did. So yeah, so you could see, like, even without the wall run, you could kind of be pretty nimble, and you could actually get around pretty easily just using your wall kicks if you position them right, the way that he did. And I really appreciated that about this game. So that was a health pickup that he just got. You get 3 of them to fill up the health bar up at the top, and give you another one of those circles when you get 3. And I think I spent about 7 or 8 hours in the game, and it was just a real pleasure kind of through and through. I really like the movement mechanics. I really like the platforming. I love 3D platformers to begin with, and I feel like this one kind of did something unique, and it definitely felt smoother to kind of play than maybe a lot of the, I'll say like the Mario 64-esque 3D platformers, like the collectathon ones kind of have a certain feel to them. This has more of like what feels like a higher skill ceiling, a little bit more complicated to kind of master. But when you get a real firm grip on those mechanics, it just feels really, really nice to play. And, you kind of see here, this is another section where you actually need another ability. Like, I don't think that he could even fudge it to get across here. So the Metroidvania style that this game has is just like really, really nice. And it plays well into kind of the movement mechanics and how you traverse the game. And it just kind of starts opening up more and more places and more ways to traverse the more abilities you get. But kind of through and through, once you kind of pick up that wall kick mechanic, really the game feels very nice to play. I'd say before then, it's still like a work in progress. You're still like trying to feel it out and figure it out. But once you start getting geared up, it feels really, really good to play. So if you haven't had a chance yet, definitely check out my review. If this looks interesting to you, the game is, I think, $6 on Steam. So it's well worth it. I think I got it for like 4 and change on the Steam sale. So definitely recommend this if you are in the market for something new. So end our video there. But I've also been playing, kind of keeping with the 3D platformer theme. I picked up alongside Pseudoregalia, Super Kiwi 64. So that's kind of more of one of those like mascot 3D platformers, I'd say. Uh, it feels pretty nice to play, but it's a very, very short game, I think. Sum total, it's maybe 2 hours to do all the content. And there's like two separate quests. One of them has 8 levels. The other one has, 8 levels and a hidden level. The other one has 2 levels and a hidden level. So all in all, it's like 12, I think 12 levels, but the hidden level in the first quest requires you to get everything super fast, which I got none of the medals required to get that. And I don't know whether or not I'll go back to see that last level. I think I paid $1 and change for the game. For what it was, I kind of sat down for a couple hours and played and had a moderate amount of fun. So for $1.50, I don't know that I'm complaining too much. But I wouldn't say it was like the greatest 3D platformer or anything. It's definitely passable. It feels like it's got good bones, like they could have built something a little bit more on top of it. And even the levels are, I'd say, like pretty diverse in terms of the ones that are there. There's a lot of different, types of movement and obstacles that are set up across each. Some are a little bit more about like finding stuff. I'd say other ones are kind of more raw platforming. The game has a few like unique capabilities that I think are helpful in making it a little bit more fun to play. So you can boost really fast. There's like a fan on your back. If you hold the right trigger, you run really fast with that. Then you've got, I think if you hit the X button on the on a Steam controller, Xbox controller, pretty sure it's the X button, you kind of like rush forward, and if you hit into particular kinds of walls, you'll like stick into it, and then you can use that to kind of move upward as you go, helping you reach higher heights. Then if you like jump off, you have kind of like a gliding move, and I believe that you pretty much have infinite glide. So that's nice. If you get up high enough, you can kind of glide over to other stuff that you're trying to get. It gives you a high vantage point. So the gliding is real nice. And then, are there any other abilities? I think that's kind of the core movement abilities, like the running. You've got to jump, you've got to glide, you've got that dash move that doubles as like sticking your beak into the wall so you can get up higher. And pretty much the whole game is based around those movement mechanics. And then in each level, there's like the equivalent of, say, coins where you're picking up. There's gears instead here. And then there are, in the first quest, there are like these gems, I guess you could call them. And then the second quest, they're crystals, but kind of the same thing. There's like, I think 10 of them per level in the second quest. And the first quest, there's like 5 per level, 6 per level, there's 6 per level. And then there's a medal that you can get that I mentioned, where if you pick up kind of all the gears and all the crystals, you'll get this medal. And if you get all the medals, then you unlock that secret extra level, which I guess is based on Kiwi 64, which I'm not sure what platform that came out on, maybe PC as well. But I never played that. So all in all, for a cheapo game, it was pretty fun. No complaints, but it's really got not a lot to come back to. I don't know that I care about speedrunning through the levels in order to pick up all that crap. So I guess if you're in the mood for a kind of like bite-sized, one evening kind of play, Super Kiwi 64, not a bad pickup. I'd probably give it like 3 stars. I might write a review or recommendation on it. But we'll see. I don't know. I'm not like hugely compelled to write about it necessarily. It didn't necessarily have that much on offer that I think people need to know about it. Not like Pseudoregalia, where I felt like that's a game people should absolutely know about. So let's see. So what's up next? What am I going to be playing next? So I also picked up recently Penny's Big Breakaway, and believe that that's from Christian Whitehead, who did Sonic Mania. And I believe that it's a pretty movement-focused 3D platformer, which after Pseudoregalia, I'm hoping is landing well. I haven't tried it yet, so totally going in blind. I may have seen a little bit of gameplay and stuff, and I think that I probably bought it more on the pedigree of who made it, and Sonic Mania being a really, really great game, more than anything else. So I am excited to try that one, but I don't know exactly what to expect yet. So I'm guessing that either by the time the next episode comes out, or more, I guess sooner than that, maybe a review will be out if I finish it more quickly than I record another one of these. So keep an eye out for that. But Penny's Big Breakaway is up next for me. And then I think when I'm done with that, I still have the DLC for Elden Ring Night Rain, which was definitely my game of the year last year. I have not dove into that yet. I think it's called the Forsaken Hollows. I can't remember. But I know there's new stuff in there. I'm looking forward to playing some of that. But I've definitely I'd say before the DLC came out, I played like a lot of that game. So I needed a break for a little while, I think, and it'll be nice to get back into it. But it's probably going to take me a minute because it's been a while and I don't remember all of the meta stuff 100% at this point. So, but that said, Iron Eye is my main. Super fun. Looking forward to checking out the new boss fights and the new map and all that crap. So, anyway, if you're a Night Rain fan and you want to play some Night Rain, let me know. I've got it on PC and PS5. So I'd be happy to jump in a match if somebody wants to play. So then I'm going to move on now to our kind of main topic of the game. So I'll give you a little background. So I was recently talking to my friend Jason. So he used to be a writer on the PixlB.it site a long time ago. Not Jason Ross, Jason Hillhouse. Jason and I have been friends since 8th grade. So anyway, we chat every once in a while, and it's always kind of inevitable that we would wind up chatting about games. That's kind of what made us friends to begin with. We both, I think I was on the bus with a Nintendo Power or something, and he was like immediately heading over to kind of hang out and chat. So gaming's kind of been a cornerstone, and I find that like we don't have the exact same taste in games, but I think that we value very similar things in games. And we get on the topic of the new Zelda games, and I guess for full disclosure, I'm not a huge fan of the newer Zelda games. I've played through Breath of the Wild. I actually played through it twice. The first time, obviously, when the Switch came out, and I'd say that generally speaking, the layout and the construction of that game was fine enough for a first play for me. I did all the shrines, and I did all the dungeons, if you want to call them that. And I definitely went to all the quadrants on the map. Now, I really did not engage much with the side quests, and I'd say like anything else that was kind of off the beaten path, I really did not bother with. I know there was like a house mechanic, and there were like Lionel fights. I don't know if any of them actually like net anything of value. There's obviously all sorts of NPC quests all over the place. There's the Korok seeds. There's a lot of crap. Definitely a ton of stuff to do. I did get the Master Sword. And then on my second playthrough, it was kind of like, I'd say I finished the game with like somewhat of a neutral position. Like I didn't love it, I didn't hate it, but I thought it was fine. So I think I played it again, and I kind of stuck to like a 3-heart playthrough, and I didn't collect any of the hearts from any of the dungeons, but I did replay the dungeons. And I think that I found that in that second playthrough, kind of the stuff that bothered me in my first playthrough, like irritated me way more in my second playthrough. And I think that that's like kind of a big break for me from the series, which, generally speaking, I've always kind of played them and 100%ed, I think, pretty much every Zelda game that's ever come out. I'd say before the Souls games, like broader, Dark Souls, Demon Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro, Elden Ring, that's definitely become, I think, kind of more of my favorite series. But the thing that I'd say was kind of anomalous with this game is that I just didn't really go through it the way that I go through other Zelda games. I think it's in part because they're such huge games, and in part because I just like didn't connect with it the same way. So in the background, I've got Tears of the Kingdom, and interestingly, I think that people have kind of like differing opinions on Breath of the Wild versus Tears of the Kingdom. For me, they both kind of felt like the same thing, and I think the things that I disliked about both of them were kind of the same thing. So in talking with Jason, it was like two things kind of jumped out at me. So I think for him, he didn't love Breath of the Wild, but enjoyed Tears of the Kingdom more. Jason is like a really creative person, I would say. He's like always making games, even when like alternate reality, like as a concept, hadn't really been a thing yet. Like once cell phones got a combination of like GPS and camera, Jason was making like, not alternate reality, augmented reality. He was making augmented reality like prototypes and games and stuff kind of right from the get-go, which was, super fascinating as his friend, kind of watching him do that. But I guess like he's just this person who I find to be a very creative person. And I think Tears of the Kingdom, in a sense, optimizes for that level of creativity. And I guess in that way, I wasn't super surprised that he connected with Tears of the Kingdom more than Breath of the Wild. I don't think that I'm as creative as Jason by any stretch of the imagination. I think that just like fundamentally, I have more systems level type thinking, and maybe I'll be creative in that kind of systems level thinking, but it's not really like my orientation as an outset. And I think that Tears of the Kingdom relies pretty heavily on you finding the fun. And what I mean by that is that it is a true sandbox, right? Like it's not just that the world is a sandbox, because it is, but your abilities are directly kind of feeding into that sandbox mentality. Everything's there for you to play with and to have fun with. And I know that for me, that's just not how I play video games. So playing Tears of the Kingdom, like a couple things really jumped out at me. So for one, I'm really good at engineering the fun out of the game. So whereas the game wants you to build these contraptions and like use the Ultra Hand to kind of put stuff together and make, vehicles and contraptions and means of getting around, I just find that stuff not fun at all. I think that, like, for instance, as a counterpoint, Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts kind of feels like a similar system. But I think that game gave me, like, direct objectives, and then that kind of, like, systems level optimization type stuff that I think I just do naturally. That game rewarded it, because, like, each time you go into a level and you pick a Jiggy you're trying to find, the game wants you to build the right cart and then or the right vehicle, I should say, and then execute appropriately based on that vehicle you've built. And I think that loop, at least when I played it, was a lot more interesting to me because it gave me kind of constant objectives, which meant that every time I designed something, I had to design something kind of for the requirements of the situation, for the Jiggy, for the thing that I'm trying to get. Tears of the Kingdom kind of feels like a different thing, right? Where you're not, to a certain extent, there's like an objective in front of you, but it's like throw a couple fans together and a steering mechanism, and you have a thing that's going to get you around probably more effectively and efficiently than anything else, right? So when it gets to that point, and then the thing that I'm doing is just like trying to get across the chasm or get to another spot, I'm going to optimize for the most effective vehicle, which is the simplest one that has me building the least because I want to do that part the least, or I find that the least interesting, rather than seeing it like this canvas that I could paint on and make my own thing. It just feels like tedium to me. And instead of engaging with it, what I wind up doing is kind of optimizing the fun out of it. So I can totally understand where the thing that I dislike about the game is actually the thing that other people like a lot. So I think that that's like one of the key problems that I had with this game. That's almost one of those irreconcilable things that I don't know that I could get past. So I think that the game fundamentally is built around this notion too. So like the things that I like about Zelda, or have liked about Zelda in the past, have really been about the existing kind of I'll almost say Metroidvania type structure, right? It's like finding some sort of object that helps you, right, in some way because it unlocks something that you couldn't get to before. And then the thing that you're being rewarded for is like remembering where that thing is useful, or where you can go like gain some advantage by taking use of that ability that you've just come across, like Metroid. Whereas I think these games definitely optimize around exploration, and they optimize around building and around engaging with the sandbox nature of the game. And, you know, the thing is like, I don't want to go find my fun. That's just not for me, right? I want to be given a challenge, and then I want to overcome that challenge. And I think like one of the things that I even Nintendo themselves have said it kind of countless times, is that when they built Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom and all that, right, they're being motivated by the original Legend of Zelda. And I find that interesting because I feel like the thing that I took away from the original Legend of Zelda versus these games is like something very, very different. I can respect being dropped into a world and not given a lot of direction. I think in that way, both of these games are very similar. But I think that like the fundamental premise of how you engage with the game is just very, very different. Zelda, the original Legend of Zelda, I don't know, rewards this kind of sandbox play, or like finding the fun with creativity in quite the same way that these newer games do. So like in much the same way, I think the original Legend of Zelda was like, you can step into these dungeons, they're going to be of varying difficulty. You might step into Dungeon 7 and you didn't intend to be there. You should be in Dungeon 2. But Dungeon 7 is what you found, and now you're here. But the game naturally discourages you from playing that dungeon by making the enemies a lot stronger, by needing the sword, the better sword that you don't get until you through a few dungeons and you've gotten the other, gotten the one sword upgrade, and now you're looking for the second sword upgrade. The game kind of gives you more and more tools, which make those dungeons more and more approachable. And as they become more approachable, you're able to conquer them. The tools that you get allow you to explore the world further. And that, to me, that formula is much more like the Dark Souls formula. I was telling Jason when we were talking, it's like the original Legend of Zelda updated for today, to me, is Elden Ring or like Dark Souls, right? Those are the games that I feel like preserve that notion that those games were going for. And in the same way, those worlds are also sandboxes, right? Like you're not in a huge, totally unbounded world. I mean, in Elden Ring, you are, but the Dark Souls games, you certainly aren't. But they use the same kind of mechanisms to teach the player, I feel like. So like, if you start off in Dark Souls or Elden Ring or whatever you're familiar with, I'll use an example for both, but if you start off in Elden Ring, we'll start there, and you go to Caelid, right? Very quickly, you're like, I should not be in Caelid. I should just stick I should stay in the Weeping Peninsula for now. I should go find Liurnia next, right? Like, the game gives you a feel for like, where you should be going and why you should be going there. Same thing in Dark Souls, right? At first, I think most people experience this when they play Dark Souls, is they go into the graveyard that's right next to Firelink Shrine after they get past the asylum. And they realize very quickly that they're going to get totally fucked in that graveyard. And like, you probably died, or, you know, you probably got mobbed by a bunch of skeletons walking around looking for stuff. And you're like, well, shit, I shouldn't be here. I better move on. And then you wind up finding your way into the Undead Parish, and you could actually move forward. And then throughout the game, throughout all these games, you know, lots of pathways or opportunities are opened up to you. And it's up to you as the player to discern what you're capable of handling and what you can't. That's somewhat true in these newer Zelda games, but I feel like they gear you up with all the tools, like, for instance, in Breath of the Wild, before you even leave the plateau, you're geared up with pretty much everything you need to be successful in the game. I'd argue you don't need anything else whatsoever. If you just go from there, and my 3 hard playthrough kind of proved it out to me, is that with limited life, limited direction, you'll find your way forward, and you will ultimately conquer the game if you're persistent enough. So I feel like in that way, the original Legend of Zelda's spirit really was infused more with like Elden Ring and Dark Souls than it was with these games. And, you know, like, listen, these aren't bad games, but they're not games that I think resonated with me personally. On top of all the things I've talked about so far, I just feel like a lot of the game also kind of leans into that experimentation and play, right? So, like, I find the breaking weapons just, like, insufferable. Really bothers the crap out of me. Not because there are a million weapons laying around. It's just like, I just don't want to deal with it. It's not fun, and I don't find it interesting. Like, it's not more interesting to like break a weapon and then go into my inventory and have another one, or to perform inventory management kind of all along the way, picking up things that are useful, or like stopping places to pick up things that I think are useful, just so I can have them in my inventory for when a weapon breaks. And then I feel like Tears of the Kingdom doubled down on that by like giving you the fusion of the weapons. So now it's like 2 steps to have a weapon that's useful to you, and to have it in reserve. Like, that's just annoying to me. I don't derive any joy out of engaging with a system like that. And then I think that like same thing goes for like crafting recipes. You know, they want you to pick up all this crap throughout the world and then craft stuff so that you could have these these health refills that you kind of get naturally. Again, it's not bad design or anything. I actually think it's very good design. It's just like not a design that I care for or that I find engaging or interesting. You know, and Elden Ring does a similar thing with the crafting, and I just like don't engage with that because I fucking hate crafting with all of my being. It's just not fun at all. And if I have to go into a menu to do stuff, it's taking me away from the thing I really like to do, which is engaging with the combat system in that game, or exploring, right? I find those worlds very interesting to explore, and I find that like typically there's a lot more on offer in Elden Ring's world than this world or the world of Breath of the Wild. Just for me personally, I'm not really caring about the rewards that come out of that effort in this game, but in like, Dark Souls or Elden Ring, I'm finding weapons that may or may not be useful or that'll let me change my builds. I'm finding items, I'm finding, stuff that's going to help me overcome the obstacles that are there in front of me. You know, maybe I have a magic build and I'm finding really useful spells somewhere, or I've got, you know, a melee build and I find a really great, you know, mid-weight weapon that just fits my play style. But you get that experimentation kind of more with the objects that you pick up. And again, like dungeons, I found pretty lackluster across both games. Not that I finished Tears of the Kingdom, but what I played there was like slightly better than Breath of the Wild, but I'd say that the dungeons were pretty bad. But the legacy dungeons in like Elden Ring, I found fantastic, really, really interesting and fun. Uh, so I think that like the prioritization of what's meant to constitute the fun that you have and how you have it are kind of just outside of what maybe makes me interested or excited about games. And I think that like realistically the setup here absolutely rewards people who want to be more creative, right? Even the weapons you choose to craft in Tears of the Kingdom and how you decide to fight are kind of more expressions of your creativity. So I think that like that's probably my fundamental mismatch with these games and why I don't like them and why others maybe do a lot more. The same thing goes like, you know, like all the things that you manage in this game. They're like maybe like survival game adjacent, where it's like, well, I had to manage whether I'm hot or cold, and you know, I've got to like optimize what I'm wearing based on environment. And uh, I don't know. I just find all that stuff really tedious and unfun. So this game, I think Tears of the Kingdom amplified maybe everything I already disliked about Breath of the Wild. And I think that it made it where I couldn't get through this game. Um, I think I got maybe 2 dungeons done and that was it. And I found like I can't tell if he's going to the underground here, but like I found the underground just very, very uninteresting, and the sky seemed more interesting, I guess. But it's like, oh, build this stupid vehicle so you could fly across now to get to that spot that you could see over there. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't give a shit. Um, Same thing with exploring the underground. I know that there are benefits that come from it. There's value to doing it, but like this landscape is even more uninteresting to kind of traverse and go around for me. And it again felt like there's just very little here that makes me want to come down here and do this. Like maybe there's a benefit to doing it, but it doesn't make me want to do it. So yeah, finding these light root things again. I think I did 1 or 2 of these, and I never went down in the underground again. And pretty shortly after, just shut the game off. So um, yeah, I think that that's kind of where it's at. So I just thought maybe it was like a realization for me when I was having the conversation that like ultimately uh, the way that I play video games, I just wind up optimizing the fun out of a game like this, and it's premised so heavily on enjoying that type of creation within the game world. And for me, like I just don't get any joy out of that. I love creating, but the way that I like to create and what I like to create is very rarely within the scope of a video game. If I want to create something, like I'm going to create something from scratch. And that's just, again, that's just how I'm oriented, I think, and that's just how I work. But uh, it was kind of a fascinating realization that maybe the games didn't click for me because they're just not for me. And in that way, I think that my frustration maybe is that Zelda will keep staying this way. And I think that interestingly, the Echoes of Wisdom, the other Zelda game that wound up coming out on the Switch that was starring Zelda and in the style of A Link to the Past graphically with the 2.5D. I really enjoyed that game and I played the shit out of it. I definitely got 100% of everything in that game. And maybe it's just because the scope is smaller or the experimentation is like a lot simpler and more accessible. But I didn't mind the level of creativity that you had to kind of utilize to complete that game. And you could do some pretty creative stuff where you avoid doing certain challenges just by like stacking things appropriately or navigating effectively. And there, maybe there's like something inherently interesting to me about breaking the game in a way that it doesn't want you to. Like, I think that that's just like interesting to me. Whereas this game, there is no way to break it. Like, it wants you to do all these things. So it kind of doesn't make it feel like you're getting away with something, which maybe is like part of the joy that comes with that experience. So I would say that for the next Zelda game, I'm hoping that they get back to some of the roots that made these games enjoyable to me, selfishly, but I don't know that they will. Obviously, I'm not the only one who has some of the complaints that I have. I think that like broadly people really do want dungeons back, and maybe the key items that come with dungeons are a part of that for them too. But this kind of big open sandbox world, I just don't. I don't want again, unless we're going to do something more with it, like, bringing really robust dungeons back and having the items you collect affect how you kind of progress in the quest. But if it's just another creativity engine built on top of an open sandbox, like, I don't even think I'm going to get the game. That's kind of where I'm at with it. I probably shouldn't have gotten Tears of the Kingdom, but I figured, what the hell, it's one of my favorite series. I may as well get it and try it and see if I like it, rather than writing it off before I even give it a shot. So, anyway, let me know what you think. Tell me what you thought. Did you like these games? Did you dislike these games? Do you resonate with kind of some of my feelings about them? Do you feel like that is relatable in some way? I'm always curious to know. So anyway, that was my main topic for today. And I feel like there's probably not a lot more to say about it, other than I hope the next one is good, and I hope that I like it, because I miss Zelda, and I do want to like Zelda again, but for right now, it feels pretty distant for me. That said, I think that's all I had to talk about today, and I'm trying purposely to keep this one a little bit shorter. So yeah, I'm going to try my best to do these every week or every other week or somewhere around that cadence. And if anybody's interested in jumping on at some point and doing one of these with me, that would be cool too. So maybe that's an opportunity in the future, and we could come up with like a topic or something that makes it more interesting to talk in the main segment of the show. Anyway, stay tuned to PixlB.it. I've got a couple more features coming out. Casey Curran is doing a feature that he's writing about that he sent me, which I've got to edit. Hopefully I'll do that tonight, and hopefully by the time you see this, it'll already have been posted to the site. And yeah, if you are an ex-staffer and you want to start contributing again like Casey is, hit me up and let me know. And if you want to just chat about games or whatever, stop by our Discord and jump in, have a chat with us. I'm definitely happy to have anybody in there, and happy to see you guys active on the site. And I still haven't had a chance to send out a big mass mailer to all the other users. But it's on the list, and it's definitely something that I will be doing soon. Yeah, okay. Anyway, I believe that's all I had for today. So you guys have a good one, and until next time, happy gaming. See ya.